Okay, 3, 2, 1. Hey to everyone listening in, and welcome back to the Msfdn Unfiltered podcast. Just before I start, I just want to say a great thank you to everyone who took part in the last one, and also that I really did appreciate all of the conversations we had, everyone expressing their point of views. I think it's important for us to all to remember, just from looking back in retrospect, that our opinions do matter. Do you know what I mean? And when we do speak about things and we have conversations and refer to each other and express our opinions, that it really does make a difference. So yeah, thank you guys for joining in on that one. But we are back. I just want to say as well, before we get started, for anyone watching live, what exactly the Msfdn Unfiltered podcast is, if you haven't watched the last one and you're just catching up. So basically what this podcast is about is it's going to be a podcast to do with young people, particularly with their creative, professional or personal goals in life. And it's mainly about the topics to do with that. But we are going to be talking about broadly different things as well. And it is all going to tie into it, but you'll see anyway. I am your host, Raz. I'm also joined by my co-host, Cheyenne. And on this week's episode, we're going to have two co-hosts, which are Natasha and Sam. And without further ado, let's get straight into it.
Now this episode is going to be about social media and technology and how they've adapted over the years. It's going to be based on the pros and cons of social media and how much of our lives technology takes up, and just whether or not it is a good thing to make both social and tech a massive part of our lives. Just to kick it off with a question, do you think that both social media and tech have more of a good impact on young people and their day-to-day lives?
Right. So I really want to start this topic off with that, but I also want to take it a little bit deeper. Now, in my opinion, I think for people who was born in my generation, so that's straight on the 2000s or the 1990s, it's completely different for people born today, or at least born in the 2010s. And that's probably because we weren't born into a world where social media technically was everything. It was there. It was a part of our lives when we grew up. I know I had a Facebook at the age of 10 and I took funny pictures with my family and all this and that. But it was mainly just interactive with close-knit friends. I feel like now, as we've gotten a lot older, social media ain't just about who you know. It's genuinely everybody. Do you know what I mean? Everyone under the sun can really see what it is, or, like how your life's going or what you're doing today. And not even just social media, like tech as well. When I was younger, I think the most exciting piece of tech was a PlayStation. Now it's way more different than that. Do you know what I mean? Like what I was talking about this prior to this podcast, things like the Metaverse, things like Bitcoin, like all of these interactive digital forms are just so much more impactful. And to me, that's a negative thing. Do you know what I mean? Because we ain't really used to being a part of this. And I think the real question I want to ask you guys is, do you think it's a bad thing for the people brought up in this generation? What do you think, Shad?
Yeah, I think social media does have people be very unsociable, and it just, I don't think it's great. But then there are some good things about social media. Obviously, if it wasn't for social media, none of us would be here right now. We have to use social media. But then the bad points are people get too into it and they start doing stuff like silly, like never talking to their friends. They let it ruin their mental health and things like that. Like we spoke a bit on it last time in the other podcast, what social media has the impact on people and their mental health. But
before I get to you, Kieran, I'm just going to talk about that a little bit, because I think what it is, right, is you have to take everything with a pinch of salt. And what I mean by that is, obviously, social media can be wicked, like for anyone trying to do something with themselves in this day and age. If you was trying to do that 10 years ago, you'd have to go to an organization that gives you the platform to do that. As in, you wouldn't be able to do that unless a newsletter wants to publish your story, unless so and so wants to get you out there. And that means untold hours of hard work and preparation and going out of your way to actually get into those situations. But now, if I want to promote something, I can pay £20 to Instagram and they'll promote it to 200 people. Do you know what I mean? So there is a very good part of it. But like you were saying, that social media is also negative because it reduces the amount of interaction you actually have with your siblings, even, or your friends or your family. You know, like, I don't actually have to pick up the phone and call someone to speak to them. I can just say, yo, you're right. And that in itself, I think, being the focal course of how much social media has impacted us is it's a terrible thing to me, to be honest. Kieran, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I just think like this new metaverse stuff is just pretty sort of scary. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, we've seen Facebook before, and now we've got this new platform. No one really knows what it is yet. Like, it's pretty early days. And you were saying about new technologies, like, you know, we've had Bitcoin and stuff, and now this. And yeah, that's just the scary thing. No one knows what it is. Like, people are going to be wearing VR headsets, going to be communicating in this so-called metaverse. And it's just like, I mean, I'm sure it'll be okay for us, but I'm more concerned about the younger generation. You know, we said before about kids growing up like glued to their phones, but like now they're going to be wearing this VR headset. They're going to be in this like digital world, and it's kind of just a cause for concern a little bit. I'm sure a lot of good will come from it, maybe new businesses and stuff, but yeah, that's just what I'm thinking. It's a slippery slope, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%, man. It's just, I will get to you as well. So I think it's just the extent of where they're trying to go with it. Do you know what I mean? Like, we've had VR headsets, VR gameplays, and do you know what? As a gamer, I think that's a wicked thing. Being able to be immersed in an environment where I'm simply just enjoying the surroundings is great. Even though some might think, oh yeah, like, this takes away from the reality. I think that's a good thing. But I think we need to draw a line at how much a virtual environment should take part in our life. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was talking prior to the podcast on the metaverse. It's recently been revealed that there are plots of land that you can buy, and that just, like, in my head, to think, right, I could spend 10 years working to try and buy a house, or I can go on the metaverse and spend my 10 grand to buy a property there. And do you know what I mean? Like, I'm actually speechless just thinking about that. We don't know how far they want to go, exactly like Kieran said. Do you know what I mean? Asil, what do you think, bro?
So I agree with the most part that you said, but I don't think it's the major issue because, to me, social media can be like alcohol. Like, when it's not consumed in moderation, it can be very dangerous in a sense, and on long term, especially in a sense where, let's say, for example, we're about the same age, and I have three little brothers. One of them is 8. He's spending more time on watching YouTube videos and TikTok videos rather than playing football like we used to. And like, yeah, affects them mentally and physically, and they start like being dependent from it. They will never be able to get out from it. Whereas someone who's at, I wouldn't say our generation, but older generation, they can live completely without having to depend on any of those new tech, like we call it.
Yeah, I get you completely, man. I think it's the whole idea that when you are brought up in an environment, that environment is all that you know. If we was brought up in the 1940s, we'd not know a single thing about how to use a touchscreen phone. It would be radio instead of TV. All of those things that just impact a person's environment also, I think, take credibility of who they can be or who they are. Do you know what I mean? Like you were saying with your younger brother and how he doesn't play football, he might just go on his phone or something of the sort. Like, it's the fact that your environment really can shape you. But I think that's the scary thing about it. Like, even though you were saying, yeah, in moderation, like, in my opinion, the problem is there is no cap. When you drink alcohol, there is a certain limit that they tell you, right, you should take this much of this in a daily amount. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, people might exceed it. That's their choice. Social media does not tell you how much you should use it per day. Do you know what I mean? And there's no indication that you've been using it for too long. And you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's just something that can definitely mess with someone's head. Tasha, what do you think?
I think you're right about that. Actually, there is no cap, but at the same time, I feel like with like when it comes to children and using their social media, their parents should be their cap. Their parents should, you know, I mean, I know it's a lot easier said than done because the child, like Asil was saying, they become dependent on it and they may like throw tantrums if they don't get what they want. They can't, use the device that they want at a certain time. But it's like, I feel like from young, it's up to the parent to kind of, to teach that to that child and put certain limitations on it. And even like online, there are settings and there are ways to like limit the things that they watch. Do you know what I mean? And there is screen time as well on your phone, because I've done it before, because there were times like oh my God, like I'm on social media like literally the whole day, or I'm in bed, I will wake up, the first thing I do is click on Snapchat. When I'm done with that, I'll go scroll through TikTok, and then when I'm done with that, I'll go to Instagram. When I'm done with that, and before I know it, 3 hours has gone by. So I've like now gone into my settings and put like a timer, like a screen time, to say, okay, from this time to this time I can use social media. After that it will like lock off, kind of thing, but it's up to me to like log back in onto the social, do you know what I mean, to get rid of that. So I think there is like, obviously it can be hard, but I think when it comes to children, their cap is like their parents, basically. I think it's the parents' job to make sure that they are, using social media moderately.
I get you. You know what? I know Asil wants to say something about that, so I'm gonna swing that to you, Asil.
When Tasha, you said that the parents should be the cap, yeah. To be honest, they also need to be how to say this. They also need to be guided through it as well, because some parents, they're very busy. A lot of people can relate to it, and they most of the time the kids are like maybe hyperactive. They want to play, they want to go out, and they have the option to give them the console to play with, to let them on one side and do the chores or whatever. They can let them spend time on YouTube, and it's gonna save them so much. I'm not saying it's good. What I'm saying is, it makes it easier for them, so it is there for them to use. So I don't see every parent not using it, because they would. And the fact that it is available is the problem. It's not the fact that the parents should not make it available to the kids. If you see what I mean.
Yeah, no, I get you, bro. Before I come back to you, Tash, on that a little bit, I think as well as the parents not being able to do like the parents not being able to actually assess what their child is doing, I think it's also more of the fact that parents are from different times. Do you know what I mean? And they actually do not know the impact of it. And while we might think, oh, like that's iffy, I genuinely mean it. Like I could tell you, my own father, like he probably doesn't know hardly as much about what to do on social media or what it can do as much as I would. Do you know what I mean? And so even if he does see me using my phone, he might not even think for a split second that me going on social media can have that kind of impact. Where I should know. If I'm a child, it's different. I'm an adult, so I can, tell myself, right, this is how much I should be using it. Like what Ellie's put in the chat of, like your iPhone tells you the percentage of how much time you've used it. That's great for a person who actually knows what to do with that information. But a child's a child. They're not going to pay any attention to 30% statistics. Do you know what I mean? They're just going to think, can I go on Roblox? That we need to pay attention to as well. Do you know what I mean? Tasha, go ahead.
I actually forgot what I was going to say. I'm so sorry.
It's all good. It's my bad. I should have come back to you, but I really wanted to say something about that.
No, but I do definitely agree with you. Obviously, no, they have no knowledge of, the impacts that social media has, and they don't understand that, being on it for so long is, it will get to them eventually. But like you were saying, obviously, and when it comes to the adult, yeah, but like with your child, if you can see that the child has been on there for so long, Asil was saying how like it's a way for for parents to keep the child occupied. I understand that, but it's like, if you, let's say the child from like 2 years old, you start giving them the phone, the device to start watching and distracting them, they're going to get used to it from then, and there is no way out. Whereas if you were to give them maybe a coloring book, or give them a puzzle to do, it's something that there's an alternative. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't always have to be social media, so I guess there are ways around it. It doesn't always have to be the device that distracts them. Do you know what I mean? It could be the TV, or it could be, I don't know, a game or something.
100%. I think you're right by saying that as well. But I want to go as well to what Sydney sort of said in the chat, because she said that I think it's just an easy way out to give kids phones or tablets. Do you know what? That's very true. Like, in my opinion, that's very true. A lot of parents, from a certain time will probably not have as much, like, even especially the parents that use social media themselves. Like we've said, social media does make you less interactive and a bit more lazy. So it's like, maybe just giving them their phone and letting them go on it. They're not gonna moan. Do you know what I mean? They're not gonna say, "Oh, I want to do this," and if you don't give it to them, they're gonna complain. So it's like, fair enough. Just give them what they want. It's not gonna bother me. Like, those parents aren't in it. I don't think they're intentionally doing something that impacts their child in a negative way, because at the same time, they probably just don't know what that does. Do you know what I mean? But I do think there needs to be a bit more attention and awareness towards, right, what should you give your child to like let off some steam or just help them relax? Because we all know children, they're a lot more active than grown-ups. So they want to be spending their time doing something all of the time. So it's like, what do we give them? Do we give them a phone, or do we take them to the park? What do you think, Hasor?
No, I was just laughing at what Ellie said, because that's the harsh truth, to be honest. Let me read it out loud again. Give to their kids iPads and iPhones and whatever other tools they can give them, so they can have a quiet time for themselves and drink their wine and TV shows. And that's unfortunately, it's not the case for every parent, obviously, but it's unfortunately the harsh truth. And since it's available for them, even if there's like regulations, there's a cap, like you said, they would abuse it. They would abuse whatever usage they can get from it. So, and also, it's not the only issue with social media and technology in general with progressivism. What happens is also it dumbs the kids' brains. It did dumb my brain, to be honest. I think I would be a lot smarter if I didn't grow up with all of this, with my Nintendo or whatever. And also distracts too much. Like, you don't get to enjoy the little things that you should enjoy, like going for a walk, socializing with friends in real life, not just online, and studying, and etc. Because I guess your dopamine level would just rise too much for you to even care about other things. You already have the best source of dopamine in front of you, the best source of distraction. And with that source of distraction comes other source of distraction that never ends. Like, you have unlimited pleasure just by clicking on your mouse or tapping on your screen.
100%. Before I get to you, Cheyenne, I kind of want to touch on the whole Nintendo thing, because I personally love playing games. Like, I think it's a great pastime when you have nothing to do. I do like to, but I'm also one of those people that finds a good 50% margin. I'm an active person, like, I do enjoy going to the gym. I do enjoy being energized, but I also enjoy going onto a console and playing a game with my mates. So I think whether or not it's a good thing or a bad thing sort of comes down to what a person intends to do with it or how much they choose to use it. Cheyenne, go right ahead.
I feel like with going back to like kids with their social media and stuff, I feel like it's what your parents teach you, kind of, because there's things that kids do that they wouldn't know what to do unless they've taught it from their mum and stuff. So if your mum's sitting there on her phone 24/7 on social media and things like that, your kid's going to pick that up and they're going to think, oh, is that what I want to do? Because they look up to you. You're their mum, your dad, whatever. You're looking up to what they're doing. And it's like, if you never swear around your child, they're never going to say a swear word in their life because they don't know what it is. But if you sit there swearing 24/7, that's when your kids start swearing, if you know what I mean. So it's the same with on your phone. Like, if I'm going to sit there my whole life on my phone, my daughter's then going to want to do the same thing.
100%. I do get you. I understand that point completely. You know what? I'm not going to talk too much because we've got a few people wanting to speak. So go ahead.
So Raz, what you were saying earlier, I don't actually agree, because you said that to me, video games or whatever, yeah, is a source of distraction for whenever you're not busy, whenever you have free time. And while that's true, it's also true that people don't know how to manage it, and whether they're kids or not. Like even me, I avoid playing video games because I know I can't control myself when I do. And so I think it's better to play the safe rather than the enjoy button, if you get what I mean. It's better to, I think it would be better to remove that specific thing that we do not need, that may cause harm to other people, uh, so that even though other people might enjoy it, if you see what I mean. It's like alcohol. I think, to me, I think alcohol should be removed as well. It should be illegal, like cannabis is, and because it causes so many accidents on the roads, and it just harms your body. And so does video games, so does social media, so does so many other things that we depend on.
Do you know what? Before I come to you, Tasha, yeah, I got to talk about this because, so I enjoy my little dabble in a drink every now and then. But you see, if I ever drink out with my mates and something, I don't know how many of you guys relate to me. You wake up in the morning, you wish you did not like to drink. Do you know what I mean? Because it's not an enjoyable feeling the morning after. That's why we have hangovers. That's why people be going on YouTube to find hangover resolutions. And this is where I think they're different, because if I choose to play a game with my mates, like I don't mind playing Warzone in the evening, I'll wake up in the next morning, I'll still feel calm and I've still interacted with my family. Do you know what I mean? And I've still done the things I wanted to do throughout the day. And even though, yeah, it's a good idea to press that safety button, I think it's just like we were saying, older people understand the cap. Do you know what I mean? Like myself included, I don't use social media or I don't use a lot of technology for a very long amount of time unless I'm working. Do you know what I mean? So I have a cap towards how much I use something, sort of integrated into my personality. So I don't use it too often, but I give myself enough time to enjoy it. So I think less about keeping a safety and more about, you know what I mean, just understanding how much you should use something. Tasha, go ahead.
I just wanted to touch on what Cheyenne was saying. Sorry to, divert it a little bit. I do agree with you to an extent. I think sometimes we forget that children are sponges and they can pick up anything from anywhere. That could be in the street, on the bus, in school, even, especially in school. Obviously, there may be some children that maybe an older child, for example, in like primary school or just starting out secondary school. Nowadays, they all have like the latest iPhone and, the latest gadgets and whatnot. The younger ones, obviously, they may not, but like the word gets around, in school, if you get a new gadget, you want to go and tell your friends, oh yeah, I got this, and I got a new PS5 and I got a new phone and all these different things. That child may feel like, they may feel bad because they don't have that, so they may go back to their parent and, want all these things. And, it's just like with the swearing, they could hear it from someone else at school. It doesn't necessarily mean that actually they've learned it from their parents. Do you know what I mean? It's just, we forget that there's so much that children can pick up. And, it's annoying because we can't always be there to like protect the child. So it's like, eventually they are going to learn, eventually they will do these things, but it's like, we can't forget that it's around us, that there's no avoiding it.
100%. I feel like what we sort of need to remember, and I don't know why I know this, but I do know this. I was watching like a TV show where it was trying to promote like early growth milk for children. And one of the things that they said was, oh yeah, like babies and young toddlers and, children growing up, their brains are so much more functional than an older person's brain. And the reason is because they're trying to retain information. They're trying to learn things. So if you was to try and learn new language at a younger age, it would be a lot easier than now. Same way, if I was to see something, I'd find it a lot easier to imitate when I was younger than if I was doing that now. Same way, if I was to go on social media and see someone doing something, I'd find it a lot more easier to imitate that than I would right now, because I do you get what I mean? I think you guys get where I'm going with this. Is children in some ways are chameleons, so you have to sort of understand the child is going to follow what it sees and what it chooses to enjoy. But at the same time, I think it's really difficult in this day and age with how much they can see, how much like a parent can actually go, right, that's not cool. We should show them that that's not the right thing to do, and we should opt for them to do something else. Because how much do you actually think a child really retains? That's the real question. Before I get on to USL and Cheyenne, I think Karine has wanted to say something for a minute. Karine, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak on the whole parent subject and say, realistically, is it the parents' fault? Are they not just trying to keep their child up to date? Obviously, you do get some people that will just say, here's an iPad, here's something just to keep out of my way. But at the same time, on the other side of the coin, tech is there and they can teach these young people more than what the parents can. So they will put them onto different platforms. And yes, they may be on there all day, but we don't know how productive they're being in putting them on that device all day, and what it is that they're trying to ensure that the child can pick up. Because the reality of it is everywhere, and the child needs to get used to this way of life, yes, with limits, but it's there. So is a parent really doing wrong just by saying here's an iPad, learn, or here's some they've put restrictions and things on it, but what's the take on that? Because exactly as what Tasha was saying in regards to where kids pick things up from, I also don't think that's always a parent's fault. I don't think if a parent swears, then the child should think they can swear too. I think it's the parent's job to ensure that they understand that, look, there's thresholds here. Just because I will do something doesn't mean to say you can do something. Is that not a barrier that we think we're crossing by saying you can't do anything in front of your child just because they might emulate it? Is it not our job to ensure that they know right from wrong? Like, I may be doing bad, it doesn't mean to say you do bad.
You know what? You've got a very good point there. I actually 100% agree because, I don't know how many of you lot relate, but my mum always taught me very fundamental values as a child, like when you enter the house, say hello, don't just walk in. If you gain something from someone, say please and say thank you straight after. Don't swear ever around your parents, you know what I mean? And from a young age, I didn't ever swear, do you know what I mean? So it's all of those things sort of come into right. I see it. I might think that's okay to do, but I'm not going to do it because I've been told that that's not the right thing to do. I don't want to talk for too long, though, because we've got a lot of opinions coming here. I think it was Asil was first. So, Asil, go ahead.
Let the ladies first.
Okay, then. Cheyenne, go ahead.
I feel like with some things there should be limits. So of course you have to give your child a phone, whatever, but I feel like there needs to be limits. So you'll say, right, you've got 2 hours to do this, then you're playing with your toys and we're going to the park. Or you've got, 4 hours, you can do 1 hour on a maths app or something like that, and then 3 hours to play your games. Then we're going out and we're doing something. Then that way they're still living in like the past, because I never had a phone till I was older. And I used to always go out. I used to do loads of things. Like the amount of memories I've got from a child was never I was just sitting on my phone. I only got a phone when I was about 12 maybe. 11 maybe, something like that. And I have all these memories, whereas some children will just have the memories of constant technology. And I don't think that should be the case. I think all parents should give their children limits and still give them the time of day, if you know what I mean.
100%. I think there's always a threshold of right. Even though, I might do this in front of my child and I've told them not to do it. I think the explicit thing is maybe there are certain things that I just shouldn't do in front of my child. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's I think we're stemming too far into, like what a parent does with their child And I think we need to focus on what a child chooses to, like, what a child actually sees. Because, like what I was saying earlier with social media and tech, like a child chooses to go onto a certain page and they're going to be exposed to 101 different forms of content. Now, there is no form of mediation unless that parent chooses to mediate that product for them. Do you know what I mean? So I could be a child going onto a page that I think has cool cars and it will have an ad about something that might be slightly inappropriate. And it's like, okay, so where is that threshold? Where is that line for that parent to be able to say, cool, I think that's enough for today. Maybe you can use it a bit later, but I think that's enough. Do you know what I mean? So where do we put that line? Go ahead, Isil.
So yeah, earlier you was talking about the fact that children were imitating. Then Shian and Tasha and Kareem spoke about the fact that the parents can manage how they interact with the internet, or how long they should spend playing or whatever. While I agree with all of those, yeah, what I've been saying from the beginning is that, and I still stand by it, it's that there will still be like 50-50s, like some parents that will manage it right and some parents that will not manage it right. And while that's great on the one side, the other side is a risk. And that's why I think it shouldn't even be considered legal to have a social media account as long as you're not at least 16, at least in this country, because it has a very, very big impact. Like, for example, me, I'm not gonna be a hypocrite and say haven't taken profit from it. Like, for example, in a school, I would sometimes just bring my laptop and my phone and act like I'm working, because I was doing IT in secondary in college, and I was just pretending to work while I was playing League of Legends. If you see what I mean, like, it's like that's how addicted I was, and that's how people can get addicted. Even if your parents tell you not to, you can still sneak in behind their back and grab your phone and spend the whole night just texting or playing or whatever. You get addicted. It's very addictive, and no matter like how tough you can be, you're a kid, you're a teenager, you can still you just won't you will just follow to your desires, not to what your parents told you, even if you have the greatest parents.
Yeah, 100%. I think, again, like I was saying, there's a line of how much a child should be exposed to, because regardless of whether or not they're going to be taught not to do something, they're going to choose to endeavor in some form of way. You know what I mean? Like, how many times do your parents, when you was younger, tell you, "Oh, it's enough of that. You got to come off. It's your bedtime," and you say, "Oh yeah, 10 more minutes." Do you know what I mean? Like, those are all examples of a child choosing to endeavor in something. But like I was saying before, and I'll say it again, like, I think it's just, we need to put an amount of how much a child should be exposed to things like social media or forms of technology, because, like, even us sitting here right now do not know what the situation of tech is going to be in 10 years' time. So how do we know how much we can trust forms of technology? Do you know what I mean? Tasha, go ahead.
I was just going to touch on what Asil was saying. I do agree with you, Asil, but I don't think social media should be illegal completely, only because, like, there are some, I'm not sure if it goes for all of them, social media platforms where it's like you have to be a certain age to create this account. And like TikTok, for example, I think you have to be like 18 or something like this, or 16. And there are so many young children on TikTok, not just TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and whatnot. Children nowadays are so advanced and they're so smart that they even know, like, from what birth date to put in to make it like that age where they're allowed to make this account. So in that case, it's like we were saying, there's literally no running away from it. But that kind of links to what Raz is saying, that there should be like a limit. But it's like, how do we do that now? Because the limits are things like screen time, limiting your screen time on there where it shows the percentages. But as a child, the child is just going to swipe that notification up and continue playing their game. So it's like, but then that links back to the child. And what I was going to say is, too much of something, we all know that too much of something isn't good. You know, if you've given your child this device to play with from morning until night, is you as the parent going to sit there and say, yeah, well, it's not my fault, I don't really know what they're doing on there, I don't know the impacts, you know, it's keeping them quiet, I can do what they do? Are you just going to allow it to be? You know, no, you will say, okay, look, at this time you're going to come off, or, you know, maybe if you get this done, this will be your reward, you can have it for this amount of time. I think it isn't always the parent's fault, but at the same time, if you don't have the knowledge of something, will you not look into it, or not ask your child, like, what are you seeing, or even sit there next to them and watch what they're doing? Do you know what I mean? So I think it's not always the parent's fault, but it's just like, there is no rule book to be a parent, there's no rule book to social media, so it's like, I guess you just have to use your initiative.
I do get you. I understand what you're saying, and I agree as well, because it's always about how much a child should be exposed to, rather than what could they be exposed to. Do you know what I mean? I do want to sort of change the topic a little bit after you guys have spoken, because I think we should also look a little bit more into, you know, not just children, but how do we get affected by social and tech? Do you know what I mean? So yeah, Asil, go right ahead, and then Cheyenne.
Yeah. So you know what, Tasha, I agree with you when you say about the restrictions. Like, it shouldn't be illegal; it should be restricted. But the thing is, it's already being done, but it's not working. And like you said it yourself, kids are smart enough to change the date of their birth. And you know what? What's funny, actually, you know, for example, I use the example of YouTube and Pornhub. YouTube, if you want to watch explicit content now, there's a security measure to take it, where you have to scan your passport in, and they have to verify it, and yeah, verify that you're over 18. That could work, to be honest, and it should be implemented more. Whereas on Pornhub, they just ask you, are you 18? And then you have to click that you're 18. You can be 9 and click on it. So if there are barriers and restrictions that are actually working, I'm all for it. But if not, and it's not working right now, then I think it should just be removed from access completely until they find a way to restrict it properly and put the right measures.
100%. That definitely makes sense. I want to talk on that a little bit, but Cheyenne, you wanted to say something?
I was just going to change the subject because I feel like I was getting too much into children and stuff. I was just going to say, what's the impact on young adults, and what is it going to do to their life while they grow up into older adults?
Do you know what? That's exactly what I was gonna do, to be honest, because I think what we need to understand is that in this world we live in today, almost every single industry has a social or a technological counterpart. And what that means is, if I now choose to go and get a job, instead of going in and actually meeting a person face to face and handing them my resume and, you know, giving them a bit of a personality spark to seeing what kind of person I am, I'm now just sending my CV to them, letting them know what qualifications I have, trying to tell them in as few words as possible what kind of experience I've got, and then crossing my fingers that the other 1,000 people doing the same thing aren't more admirable than me. Like, I'm trying to get into vehicle engineering technicians apprenticeships kind of area, and, you know, just as an aspiration, I was like, cool, so what would it be like to actually be an engineer for F1? And I was looking at it, I was like, okay, so, you know, just searching it up, and I think it said either 1 to 5,000 people that apply online, only 10 get selected. So it's like, so how do we actually express ourselves without seeming like a number on social media as well? I think that's something we need to focus on. That, how do you have individuality? Is it through social media? Because sometimes your individuality ain't really that original either. Like we was talking about last time with the whole trends idea. Do you know what I mean? What do you guys think about that one?
I think that what you're saying is right, and I feel like there is things that people could do, like with jobs, like you were saying, like more time they want to ring you first for an interview than they want you to go in. Whereas back in the day, it would be more of like formal, like letters, or maybe obviously it's still tech, but emails to say like, let's say 3 years ago, I went for an interview, but they emailed me to say come in for an interview, and then I would have to send my documents over. But back then it was I had to take my documents in. Nowadays I do things and people ask me to send my documents over by email through technology, whereas back, like, life has changed so much within like 5 years, 3 years, whatever. So say 3 years ago I went for my first job and they emailed me and just said like, right, you've got the job, can you bring your stuff in? Instead they could have easily said, can you just send it over, because all they had to do was copy it and kind of print it out, which they could have done that without me having to go there. But nowadays anything that can be done online will be done online, and that's anything, literally.
No, I do get you. Do you know what? I want to sort of address an elephant in the room because I don't know how I haven't actually thought about this, but what has happened in the past 3 years that has impacted social media so much is COVID. Do you know what I mean? Like, we all went through coronavirus and saw the whole world say, right, you can't be within 2 meters of each other. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, damn, that's actually something that I didn't think about, because I was at university and for my first year, everything was in person. You know, like, I had seminars, I had all of my little lectures, and I was meeting up with friends, I was socializing, and then boom, straight away it was like, yeah, you have to stay indoors and use your laptop to communicate and use your laptop to do seminars. And while we might see that as, yeah, this is a breakthrough for technology and socials, it's also a very, very, very big step back, because then we're sort of sacrificing the importance of being face to face, of me being in front of you and talking to you. Like, I found it so difficult to learn some of my topics for English Lit because I wasn't able to see Sir David and speak to him and say, look, I've got this issue. Can I have some help? And he couldn't actually stand there and reassure me. Instead, it had to be, you're right there, Raz. Yeah, you'll be all right. Just do this. I'll send you the link. And do you know what I mean? Like, it's so much more different, man. Tasha, go ahead.
Do you know what? I completely agree with you. It really, and I think another thing is, it really, since then, it's like, I think it's really played on people's confidence and their self-esteem, because like what you were saying, Cheyenne, when it comes to like interviews and stuff, it was actually, you go out there, you meet the person, you have this interview, you get to know them, they get to know you, and then from there, you know, you can move on. And then when you do get to start, you've already had, you know, you've already built a bit of a rapport with them, so it's almost like, you know, you're a bit more confident to start now. Whereas everything's online, and it's like there's things like pre-recorded interviews, so you're just talking to a screen, you know, and then when it does come to actually meeting the person in person, you may not feel as confident in person, you know. And also what you were saying, Raz, about like learning stuff, I think with me personally, with COVID, I've actually noticed that now that I was forced to stay inside for 2 years, I don't even like to go out anymore. Like, to go out and socialize is just long now. Do you know what I mean? To go out and learn things and do things, it's just so long now, because everything is online. I'm so comfortable with just being in my bed and doing things online. There are thousands of events online. There are thousands of things that I can learn online. But it's like, now, like what you were saying, Raz, is that like this massive breakthrough that we've had with like everything being online, and we don't actually have to go out there and, you know, get up, and or is it a bad thing? You know, what do you guys think about this?
Well, I mean, personally, just going off of what I said before, I feel like it's a terrible thing. I genuinely believe that, because for me, personally, I love interactions. Do you know what I mean? I love being face to face with someone and just being able to actually communicate through human interaction. That just means so much to me. Like, I feel like I attain so much more as well. Do you know what I mean? But I'm not going to sit here and be hypocritical, because without socials and without tech, we would not be in this space, being able to have this conversation. So you always have to be able to say, right, we're thankful for this, but this is also a problem. So I don't know, man. It's a difficult question, really. Like, just being able to sit there and think, right, if I didn't have my laptop, if I didn't have my phone, if I didn't have my TV, if I didn't have my PlayStation, where would I be right now? What would I be doing? Do you know what I mean? And like, what brands would I wear? Because I wouldn't be able to go and see you know, online, what's popping, what's trending, what's going on. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's such a. I actually don't even know how to answer it. I think that's the real question: is how do you answer that question?
Yeah, it's a very hard one, because it's like you can do so many different things all at once on social media, whereas in person it's like, you know, it takes a longer time. Do you know what I mean? There are so many things that you can do all at once on social media. You could be working and watching Netflix, and, you know, in a meeting somewhere and doing this and doing that. So it's like, you know, we get all of these benefits, but at the same time there's no real life interactions, you know. So now thinking about it, in like the next 2 years, are we even going to be, and that things like you can get like your groceries delivered to you now. We don't even need to go to the shops anymore to buy our food. Like, it's crazy to me. I find it so crazy.
Yeah, it is mad, man. Like, what was it? I keep seeing this ad on YouTube. I'll come to you as well, Sharon. Sorry, I'm taking a while. I keep seeing this ad on YouTube called Hello Fresh, and I'm like, okay, but and they're advertising it. They're like, you can buy this box, and it will have everything you need for your meal. And I'm sitting there, I'm racking my head, and I'm thinking, if I go to Asda and I buy my veg and I buy my meat and I buy it, why do I need this box delivered to me? Do you know what I mean? And yeah, for some people that might just seem like, oh, do you know what? That's so easy. I can sit back, my dinner's coming to me and I'll cook it. But it's like, what? Stretch your legs, man. Go to your shop. Do you know what I mean? And I think that irritates me. Is even though, yeah, things are kind of easier, it's the ridiculousness of how lazy do you actually want to be? Like, have you not watched Wall-E? Do you know what I mean? Go ahead, Sharon.
I was going to go back to what you were saying, Raz, when you said, like, obviously, where would you be without your phone, your PlayStation, whatever? But do you really think that's a good thing? Because where would you actually be? Like, actually think about it. Like, because I feel like without my phone, I would probably have succeeded half of my dreams already. And because my phone takes up so much of my time, I'll sit there, I'll have something to do, like something important on my phone. But in my head, I'm like, I'll just watch TikTok for another hour, then I'll do it. And that's bad. I feel like that is lazy. And I do it all the time. I won't lie. Like, I could be having to send an important email to someone, and it gets to the point where it's like a week later and I still haven't done it because I'm so busy on my phone. I'm not even busy, I'm just doing normal stuff like TikTok and Instagram, texting people. It just slips my mind, and it is really bad, and I feel like it happens with a lot of people. But I do look at a lot of the time, where would I actually be without my phone?
100%, man. Like I said before, I couldn't answer that question. And I think that's important to realize, because have we lived in a generation? Really? Like, yeah, I was young when technology wasn't really a thing, but at my prime ages of life, which is like 20 to 30, I'm going to be smack bang in the middle of a place where my phone has to be near me. So it's like I physically don't know what it would be like without it. Do you know what I mean? Yes, I'm saying I would love a human interaction in more of a real sense. So like, if I didn't have my phone and I actually went to knock on my mate's door and said, "Ah, man, do you want to come out for a bit?" Like, that would be nice, innit? And that's what I used to live like. But can I do that now? Probably not, because I don't even remember how to do that. And that's the mad part of it. Do you know what I mean? Before I get more into it though, I also want to talk about what Kareen's put in the chat. So she put, do you think it's bad that employers would first use tech and socials to research about you to determine if they'll ever meet you in an interview? Now, I'm going to be real with you guys. I have some very funny social posts, yeah? Not bad ones, just funny ones, where an employer would say, why the hell did he post that for? Like, I feel like that's the problem. Is my social really for people to be seeing when it's quite a personal thing? Like, it's something between me and my friends. Do you know what I mean? So I don't really like that idea of my employer. Like, I don't think he should know my life. I'm there because I want to be effective in that job. But he shouldn't know what I choose to do outside of work. That's my life. Like, why is he invading that? Do you know what I mean? What do you guys reckon? Go ahead, Shan.
I think answering Kareem's question, like, I think that is absolutely terrible, because I feel like when you're working, you're a
Mute
complete
yourself, Raz.
person to when you are working, if you know what I mean, when you're not working, sorry. So I could go out, I could be doing whatever, and I could be the most funniest person out of all my friends, but when I'm in work, I'm serious, like, and I feel like if I'm posting stuff on my Instagram or my Facebook of me and my friends, and I don't know, we're messing about or we're doing something stupid, like, them employees are looking at us and thinking, God, she's immature, wouldn't want to, like, but in reality, that's me outside of work. And when I'm in work, I'm a completely different person to outside. So what do you think?
Do you know what? I think it's a thing where I just I I have a lot of privacy in my life. Do you know what I mean? I don't like a lot of people to know what I choose to do in my spare time. Not because I do anything wrong, but because it's my life. It's not yours. Do you know what I mean? I choose to do what I choose to do, and I think that is where my own form of freedom comes from. Because in this world, are we really free with socials? If that's the case, no. Do you know what I mean? I ain't got no freedom if I don't have my own life that I can choose to live without being criticized for it. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's the important part as well. Like, just being able to do what you do on a daily basis and then not going to work next morning and someone say, well, you had a right bender, didn't you? Like, you don't need that. Do you know what I mean? For someone to have an opinion of you that isn't even assessed through a real situation. They're looking at a screen and thinking, that's not too good. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't like that. I don't like that idea. It actually makes me feel angry. Like, literally. Go ahead, Sam. You want to say something?
Yeah, so going back to Kareen's question where she was asking if it's like bad that employers can like search up your stuff on social media and everything. As bad as it can be for like someone who is very private like myself, I think that it can also be like a really good thing for like, let's say for example, you see this a lot nowadays. There'll be someone on Twitter who has said something like either really racist or just really like controversial in the past, and it will often be like brought up to their employers and stuff and they'll get fired for it. So I think it can be a good thing in that sense. Like, you don't want to employ someone who has really like a really controversial past and like can affect your brand in like a severe way.
No, definitely, man. I think it's also that's a good point because I feel like a lot of people don't actually realize that what you choose to do on social media is always going to stay there. It never goes anywhere. Data don't really get deleted. Do you know what I mean? Even if you choose to go, yeah, delete, someone will find it, someone will find out, and someone will let everyone know. And it's that form of, ooh, do I really want to be who I am? Nah, because you see, if I make a snap post, I'm actually always triple considering whether or not I want to post it. Not because I don't enjoy what I just done, because what is this person going to have an opinion that isn't what I want to see, or is this going to come back and me in the future? Like I don't know. So I'm just like, raw. Do I do this or do I not? Do you know what I mean? And those are the real questions we have to ask ourselves sometimes. I will get to what you said as well, Kareem, but I just want to let everyone speak. I think it was Asil. Go ahead.
Thank you. To go deep into what Kirin asks as well, yeah, is also the artificial aspect of when, let's say, for example, you're an employer, you're looking for people, and you don't want to waste your time too much. You see what I mean? And you just want to look at at your CV, small research about the person, and you find one bad, like you said, a funny post or whatever, that could really impact the way your the way he's gonna consider you. Whereas in real life, it will be totally different. It's like Shian said, like we have different personality when we're at work and when we in our double life, private life. And but the problem with this is that employers, the way they work now is a waste. They actually miss opportunities to get like real talented people just based on their judgment from an artificial aspect. It's like judging a robot without having much information about the robot or whatever real information, because whatever we post online is only the best aspect or the weirdest aspect, if you see what I mean.
No, I do get you. I think it's always subject to opinion as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, depending on the employer, they're gonna have a different opinion about what it is you post and whether or not that makes you effective or not. Do you know what I mean? So it always is dependent of, oh, okay, am I doing something that this employer will like? say for example, if I'm trying to be employed by someone who has an interest in something I'm interested in, if they see that I've put that up there, they're gonna be like, "Oh, brownie points to him." But if I don't do that, then do you know what I mean? Like, what is their opinion gonna be of me, and how is that going to affect my position? Cheyenne, go right ahead.
So there's been a question asked about you're looking for a childminder, everything about that person you'll take into consideration or not. So I feel like you have to meet someone to know if they're a nice person, because they could be the nicest person online and you come and meet them and you absolutely hate them. You can't tell, I don't think, what a person is like over social media, because I could look like a very nice person, and say one of you met me, you could be like, "Oh, I don't like her." Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't tell. It's like you can't judge a book by its cover. And if someone's looking to be a childminder for my child, I feel like I'm not going to trust that person until I've got to know them maybe 2 or 3 times. That's maybe going to a cafe and talking a couple times, because your child, that is a very big thing to let someone be around your child that you don't know. So I feel like you have to get to know someone before you let anyone go near your child.
100%. I do get what you're saying. I feel like it's always a thing where if you're gonna have someone who's looking after your child, you're gonna be extremely protective, because that's your child. You're not just gonna leave them with anybody. And like Kareem was saying, the whole idea of, oh, you can get a judgment of the personality for a first step before an interview, for example. I feel like, yeah, that's true. But if I was to then sit there and be like, oh, I've seen them partying, they're not good for my child. Or, do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's the thing about social media. You aren't seeing the real unless that's what you think it is. And I hope that makes sense, as in, if I choose to post something about what I'm doing on the weekend, that's not me every single day. That's just me on the weekend. And that's the problem, is there's too many perceptions about what a person can be like just for a still image. And if someone's got something they've put up that is giving you an impression, like Shine was saying, meet the person, understand that person, gain a real first impression through actually seeing that person, and then fair enough, you can make your decision then. Yeah, go ahead, Ellie. I'm gonna wrap it up after this, guys.
Like I said in chat, we all have a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde personality.
Yeah, I don't know, because I feel like, even though, yeah, I personally don't like to see myself as a Dr. Jekyll.
No, yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I would say some people can be like that, as in they'll have one face and then another face, but then that's more of them to just consider about themselves. Me,
Yeah.
I'm more of a person where, like, I don't use social media to present something that isn't real. Even though people could do, I'm just not that kind of person. Do you know what I mean? But I
Yeah.
really want to round it up because we're actually on the 1
Yeah.
o'clock mark. And I want to ask you guys one more question just to round this whole conversation off. And the question is this: in 10 years, what do you actually think social media is going to be like? Because we've seen the metaverse, we've seen what that's really going to look like for us. But what do you actually think it will be like? What do you guys think? Anyone?
I feel like there's going to be flying cars soon. I feel like technology, I don't know, I've seen films and they're like screens. You can see through them, but you can touch them. If you know what I'm talking about, they're like blue. And I feel like it's going to be very different to what it is now, even coming down to Instagram and things like that. I think it's just going to be crazy. I can't picture what Instagram and Snapchat's going to look like, because it's changed so much over the years. But I do think there is going to be like flying cars and like crazy technology and things like that, like flying motorbikes, flying boats, everything. Like, so you can go over the traffic. I don't know, just loads of different stuff.
So you're just thinking all rockets and that? Fair enough. No, I'm joking. No, that's all good, man. I'm gonna let everyone who's put their hand up speak, and then we'll wrap it up. Asil, go ahead.
So in 10 years, I would see, the big ones, like TikToks, Snapchat, and Metaverse or Facebook, whatever you want to call it. They're gonna find new desperate ways to to get people to become more addicted to what they already are. And whichever way it's gonna be is gonna be very chaotic for the new generations. I'm actually very worried.
I do get you, bro. 100%. To be honest, my idea has always been it's going to be iRobot in about 10 years' time. Ellie, go ahead.
I don't know what I was going to say. Sorry.
That's all good. Sam, go ahead, man.
Yeah, nothing too long or anything. I was just thinking, strictly based on like social media, I think in the future it's going to become a lot more restricted. Because I don't know if you've noticed, like on Instagram, they're hiding people's numbers on their likes. YouTube, there's much more ways to get like demonetized on like a video or anything. I think it's just gonna, as like advanced as it will still be very restricted, more than it is already.
No, I do get you. So what you reckon is like there's going to be a cap to it where people will actually be able to control it a lot more than they do now. See, I do get that. Because I feel like one day we're not really going to have an opinion because these conglomerates that have created these forms of technology are going to have such an impact. We won't really be able to say anything about it. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, guys, do you know what? I'm going to wrap it off there because we are actually 3 minutes over. But you know what? I want to say thank you, man, because I really enjoyed the conversation. You know, we've all had like so many different points of views, and we've got parents in the group, we've got gamers in the group, we've got people who relate to everything we've just said as well.